Welcome to my podcast, Ruella Talks Recruitment. On this episode, I was joined by Sean Anderson, the CEO of Hoxo Media. Hoxo Media are a marketing agency supporting the recruitment industry. Sean and I had an interesting conversation about his podcast, The Rag, why he started it, and why he feels it's an excellent way to build your personal brand. As usual, I'll let my guest do the talking. So Sean, thank you so much for being a guest on Ruella Talks Recruitment. As you know, I really want to pick your brain around podcasting. The Hoxo Media have recently supported us, as I'm sure you're aware, in launching our podcast. And when I first started on my journey with you at the Academy, 18 months ago or so now, which, as I said in fact, I was on Sally Spicer's LinkedIn Live yesterday. I said it was a game changer, us meeting you and the difference it had made to our business, going through that personal branding journey. And never on that journey did I ever think that we would end up launching a podcast. Obviously, it's really early days for us to get a sense of what difference it's going to make to our business. But you have had the Rag Report now for, how long have you had that podcast for?
So the Rag podcast has been going since January 2019. So 2.5 years. The Rag Report was a little daily show I created in lockdown last year. So The report was like my response to the pandemic. But yeah, I started it in January. I did all the kind of pre-work in December 2018. Feels like a while ago now. And then I launched it in January 2019. So it's 2.5 years. I'm currently on a break. So I'm enjoying a little break, and I'm back in August with season 5.
Unbelievable. So well done. How many listeners have you got now on the show?
I think it obviously depends per week and month. I think on average we get about 20,000 plays a month now. And then across platform, obviously, with this YouTube small amount, we get quite a few on LinkedIn, and then the majority are on Apple and Spotify. So it's mainly listened to as that's the thing. It's mainly listened to as a podcast, even though it's released as video. People prefer the audio. We've got the data that proves that.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I'm a bit of a video girl rather than, I always watch you do it.
Right.
But in fact, I was looking at some stats before I interviewed you today, and it says in the UK, 6.5 million people now listening to podcasts and rising. The 40% of people who are listening are between the age of 26 to 35, and most of them, as you've said, do listen to the audio version, either while they're driving or traveling, and it's only going up and up and up. We've been asked by quite a number of our clients why we decided to go down this route. But tell me about your journey. Why did you decide that this was a route you were going to go down, and how did you kind of go about it to get it to the level that it is now?
Okay, so it all goes back to pre-Hoxo, actually. When I started, I was in recruitment in, I think it was 2015. When I really started listening to my own podcasts, as in just going to work. I was with one of the people that listened, and I quickly realized that I got access to all sorts of information for free on my phone whenever I wanted, like Google, but audio.
Yes.
And I loved it. I was listening to things about sales. I was listening to things about relationships at the time. I was listening to things about alcohol, and the relationships I had with that. And I found that I was just listening to like self-improvement, nutrition. I was learning, and it was the first time I've ever really enjoyed learning. But actually, it goes hand in hand with being a recruiter, right? Your whole job is in your ear, so the whole job is on the phone, really, and in meetings. So I didn't realize, but auditory. I'm an auditory learner. So when I listen to things, I can hold information really, really well. I'm not the best.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, I'm not the best person when it comes to even visually is cool, but I genuinely do listen. I do learn from listening. So my ability to retain information was always pretty good. Anyway, when I started Hoxo, I from day one, I thought I'd do a podcast about top billers or something. Like I actually didn't realize you could just do a podcast. I thought it was something like you had to be paid to do like a radio show or something. So I didn't know at the time that you could just launch a show. And then it was about middle of 2018 when we hired Hisham Azuz, who has the recruitment roller coaster, and now it's called, I think, the Recruitment Mentors Network.
Yeah.
And big fan of Hish and big friend of Hish. I hired him and trained him up. He just launched a podcast in his bedroom. called the Recruitment Roller Coaster, which when we hired him, we were like, there's the podcast, we don't need, I don't need to do it. Hisham's already launched it. And we built him a studio. We spent like a few grand on a purpose-built recording studio in our office. And we got like soundproof walls and bought him all the kit. And he loved it. And I realized, I just sat there and watched over the next 3 or 4 months, people coming from all ends of the UK to our office to meet Hisham to be on a show. And I was like, it's the best reverse business development strategy I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. Like, he's having our target customers come all the way over to sit in our office for an hour with us and meet us. And I was jumping on some of them with him and co-hosting them. What I found though was when I listened to Hisham's show, it wasn't really what I wanted to listen to. It was more geared towards entry level, like, no disrespect, it's a great show, but it was geared towards recruiter life, an agent, like a consultant level. Whereas when I was launching Hoxo originally in 2017 and early 2016, I remember researching recruitment agents because Hoxo was a recruitment company. I've been very open about that. I remember researching what it would take to launch a successful recruitment company. And there was nothing on the podcast store that helped. And I could find everything else. Right. So that kind of stuck in my brain. So instead of just talking about getting into recruitment, I was more bothered about starting an agency because I'm a business owner. It was the level I wanted to talk to. Yeah. And I thought starting and scaling recruitment companies is something that all of my target clients are going to want to learn about. Absolutely. So it's a funny one. It kind of came off my own. Then it was something I wanted to do. I didn't get around to it. Hisham joined. We let Hisham fly. It was doing really well. I think he got it up to like 3,000 or 4,000 plays a month by then. And I was like, you know what? Let's try mine. So I came up with a load of names, and we came up with the RAG to stand for Recruitment Agency Growth. And it just stuck. And then we launched it. I got, I think, 3 or 4 guests to come into the office in December 2018. And we went live with it in early 2019. And look, LinkedIn was a different place then. There wasn't as many content creators. There wasn't like now, obviously my business is all about helping people create content. So I'm part of that drive. But back then there was not many people doing it. So it was a lot easier to get reach and awareness on things. Like I think the first month of the RAG, we got over 1,000 plays in the first month. So
that's just incredible.
It started off well, but that was because of my personal brand I was already building. So how did we grow it? Do you know what? We effectively, we did a few things. We made sure we picked really good guests. So I went out and selected the type of people I wanted to be on the show that I knew would have the gravitas of to amplify our brand with theirs. But also we were just relentless. Like we never missed a week. Like, it was every single week. Consistency's always been my thing. Every single week we put an episode out on a Wednesday, and people got used to it. And obviously I promoted it heavily on my personal page, on LinkedIn, the company page. Every episode we sliced and diced into 2 little video clips that would be shared to tease people to watch the show. I think up until the pandemic, so from January 19 to March 2020, I think it was about 6,000 monthly plays. And then it went from 6 to 13,000 in 3 months when I went in the pandemic. So it showed that at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, I want to help people. Like I really want to help. I don't know what I can do. I don't know what value I can add. The only thing I thought was perhaps if I just interviewed someone every day, I could give people a daily dose of how others were feeling. It was just like this community vibe I was trying to create, and it took off. I mean, like I say,
and you did really create that, because I was always looking forward to the next episode. It was like watching a series on TV, and it's like a cliffhanger, and you can't wait for the next one. I really at the time just couldn't wait for the next episode.
I think we needed it. I think we all needed to know that we were on our own, and I got people in the US, in China. In Dubai, in London, in Singapore, in Australia. And I tried to just show a global view of what was going on with the pandemic. I think that got a little bit tiresome after 3 months. I think everyone was a bit sick of the pandemic chat. So I had a break. I had about a few weeks off then. And then I came back with season 3 or 4. And that was where the show went back to its original roots and how we're going to grow post-pandemic. And then it kind of took off I think that little period was where it really took off for us, and we got a lot more listeners, a lot more engagement, and it just kind of flew from there.
There's two things that you just highlighted there, and I had this dilemma myself. How important do you think the name is? Because if you recall, I was coming up, you were coming up with names, and it was really right at the last minute that the name Ruella Talks Recruitment came out. We've had all sorts of things. Do you think I probably got a bit too hung up on it, but do you think the name is really important in the grand scheme of things?
Not really. I mean, I think certain names are more sticky and catchy than others. I don't think it's a bit like a logo. It doesn't it doesn't actually make or lose you any money, but it makes you feel good. It makes you feel good about. So if you feel good about your name and it represents you, I actually I think I advised you originally, don't put your name in it, because yours works as Ruella Talks Recruitment is it clearly is what it does what it says on the tin. It works
in the end,
But a lot of recruitment agencies will create like the X, Y, and Z consultancy podcast, right? Which means nothing. It just means nothing. And to get someone to listen, you need to resonate with keywords and stuff. Recruitment agency growth podcast is pretty clear. Ruella Talks Recruitment, pretty clear. So my mantra is don't make people try and work out what it is you talk. Like the best ones I listen to, the Diary of a CEO, the Secret Leaders, the High Performance Podcast, like they basically say what they do in the name.
Yeah, so that's quite important.
And ABC Recruitment doesn't always say what they do. They usually bolt surnames together and that's it, or it's a random word. So, like for example, Ruella James Recruitment doesn't actually say you're a rec to rec, does it? It just says your name. So, the fact that you've put Talks Recruitment, I think makes it perfect.
Yeah, thank you. And then the purpose behind it. Obviously, you had a specific purpose almost from series to series. There's been a purpose behind it, and I think you've recently changed almost the way you're approaching it. In your last season was more not necessarily talking through recruitment leaders' stories, but sort of adding value around a specific topic.
So actually, thinking that, it's interesting. I've gone through different waves. So the early start of the show, the purpose of the show was to educate people that were sat in a recruitment owner seat, or the people that were about to be, like, more importantly, the people that were sat in an agency thinking, I'm going to launch next year, right? The me of 5 years ago that sit there going, look, I can't tell my boss I'm going to leave, and I don't actually know any other recruitment owners. Whereas with my show, they can plug in and listen to 50, 200 of them now and find out how they grew their business. So it was to give people the inspiration to start. Yeah. Obviously, for me, that's a good thing because it nurtures my future client base, right? It means that every time they start and they listen and they grow up on Hoxo, that's what I want. But also there's the agencies that are already in the thick of it that just aren't moving to where they want to be. And then, listening to someone who's 5-10 years ahead gives them that bandwidth. Now, I've gone through season 1 and 2, I think was all that. Season 3 was the RAG report. That was more pandemic. It was just literally, what the fuck are we doing? Season 4, season 3 was, so the RAG report was its own season. Then season 3 was after the pandemic, where we actually went into more of it was just like, where are we in life? So it was like, I spoke to people about divorce. I spoke to people about, building businesses whilst dealing with, illness and all sorts of different things. Like one woman's dad died and then her brother died in a motorbike accident. And that's, it was literally
they were
crazy.
Really moving, those ones. Yeah. I watched, was it with Mike? Is it Mike Mihalov, the one with the divorce? We're talking about divorce.
Oh yeah, Mike Mihailov. Yeah, he's my old colleague, an old colleague of mine.
That was amazing. That was the one that resonated the most. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
and it wasn't really recruitment related, was it?
No, not at all. He was a colleague of mine. I was in Ibiza last year, going through my own divorce. And listening to I couldn't really speak in that episode because I was welling up the whole way through. It was a really tough time for me personally, but. I think I used that season, if I'm brutally honest, a bit selfishly to as a way of kind of
therapy,
a bit of my own therapy. Yeah, a little bit. Like I was just kind of like, I didn't really want to talk about recruitment at that point. I was dealing with, I'd split with my wife. I'd left London. I'd moved to Manchester. I'd gone to Spain for a bit. My business was remote. Everything in my life had changed in about 4 months. And I was like craving, just learning about how other people have dealt with difficult times in their life. So, and I think people resonated, people listened. And then going into this year, we've gone back to the growth stories because I think everyone's been back in growth mode.
Yeah.
which has gone down well. And we've gone for some big guests this year. We've had the likes of James Caan on this year. We've had Logan Naidu of Dartmouth Partners. We've had Bradley Lewington of Spencer Ogden. We've gone with Tim Cook. We've purposely gone for the top tier owners of this year to inspire people, because actually they're so busy, these guys. You don't often get a chance to hear from them. So to get an hour and find out what they're actually up to, I think it's invaluable for a lot of people.
I mean, you talked earlier about building a studio for Hish and for yourself at the time. But obviously, during the pandemic, no one was going to come to that studio. You were doing it from home. And I just want to reassure people out there that actually you don't need a ton of expensive kit to be able to do this. I've got a similar mic to yourself. I'm sitting in my living room. You're at home in your office. Can you just sort of reassure people that actually, once you get on that journey, you don't need a lot of expensive technology behind you, and you don't have to be particularly tech savvy, because I'm rubbish, as you know, to actually go on this journey, because I think it's a great journey to go on for business.
Yeah, I think you're quite right. I've got a ring light, I've got a microphone, I've got a laptop. That's pretty much it. And then I've got some software that we distribute the show on. It was a lot more fancy in the first couple of seasons when we were in the office, but now there's no need to be overly, it's all about the audio quality is important, which is why I've got this microphone. And the rest of it it's a little bit, you can overkill it. The one thing I would say is I wouldn't just launch a podcast for the sake of it. I'd say pick a topic you genuinely care about. So like, for me, I absolutely love this sector. I love speaking. I love finding out how entrepreneurs think. I love how they grow. I love how they maneuver. I learn from every single guest. So for me personally, I'm like the client. I'm the customer here. Like if I enjoy it, I think the client that they'll like. It's the amount of times I've done an episode and gone, I loved that. Like it was an amazing hour, and then the feedback is always great because I'm testing what other people are going to experience. So again, I would say if you're going to do this, technology is not a problem. If you're a good recruiter, I mean, interviewing is part of what you do for a living. So you should be good at asking questions, but you want to literally be hanging off every word of the other person. And the only way you're going to do that is if you genuinely are interested in what they're saying. If you're doing it just to tick a box, it'll be obvious.
And I'm a massive advocate of not doing everything yourself, as you know, which is why we use you guys. But obviously there is the editing part. There is the fact that you want it to look good when it's on the, you've done all of our tiles for us, and you do a lot of PR afterwards for us. As you said, there's audiograms, and that's not something I feel I could do myself. So I am a massive advocate, if there is a budget, to go and use somebody who knows exactly what they're doing. For sure. Go and do it for you. But for people who can't do that, it is possible to do it on your own. It is,
of course. I mean, part of my Hoxo Academy, I actually have a 4-week program called the Podcast Launch now, where I'll train. I train people on how to launch a podcast. So if anyone wants to learn how to do it themselves, the budget, they haven't got a huge budget, then they can come to us and they can learn that way. It is incredible, though. I mean, think about it. You'd want to get in front of a CEO of a target company. You can say, hey, are you recruiting at the moment, Mr. Client? Or you can say, look, I've checked you out and I'd love to feature you as a guest on my show. It's literally night and day in the responses. And I've been able to get some incredible guests on my show. And, we've probably done business with 80% in some way. And it's not, the show is really important for them and they get great PR off it, but it's also a really good opportunity for us to learn about each other and get to know each other in a really, really nice way. If you're a commercially minded business leader in our space, like there's a hell of a lot of opportunity in it. There's a lot of opportunity in the listeners as well, but first and foremost, it's in the guests that you interview. If you're any good at your job, you should be able to work with them in some capacity. And then once you start getting, like, I get people messaging me all the time, Sean, love the show. Can you answer this question? And I'm just like, it's just bonkers to think people listen to you in their own spare time. I get tagged in some pictures on Instagram with people like just done a 5K listening to the rag. And I'm just like, it's just bonkers. Like I still can't get my head around the fact that people would choose to listen, but they obviously do, which is flattering.
So from a business leader's point of view, what difference do you think a podcast is going to make to their business? What difference has it made to Hoxo having a podcast?
It gives you a really, really easy way of producing content. So often we sit there in content creation, including at Hoxo and in marketing agencies, and we think, what are we going to talk about? Like, how are we going to really get under the fingernails of our clients, and so that we produce content they care about, because that's ultimately what we're doing it for, is to engage people. Now, podcasts are user generated content, which means you're doing it with the client. So who knows more about the client than the client? So by just asking them questions on recorded video or recorded audio, you're able to produce a really clear stream of content that not only engages the client, but it involves the client. And that way, you know, you can produce really, really detailed industry thought leadership as a result of leveraging somebody else. And then also it's the credibility piece. So when you've got 100 episodes and they're on your website and you're like, how many times has a recruiter gone to a meeting and said, oh yeah, I know him and I know them and I work with them? Imagine, like, for me, I can just show it. I can go, well, I interviewed him here, I interviewed him there, I can just show a reel of my highlights. So it's more of it makes a statement that you can associate with brands that you interview, and you can prove it rather than just saying, you know, we're top tier suppliers. So I think it's really a really easy, really modern way of producing content. And it gives you a certain level of credibility to even network with those people. And it's great fun. Like, honestly, it's just, I love it. I love listening to people. I love connecting with them. I love finding out about their life. I love being able to listen and then on the fly be able to come up with questions that open them up even further. And I think
very good.
It challenges your skills, doesn't it? It challenges your own skills.
You talk about the credibility piece, the credibility and becoming a thought leader. Do you think it's important that business leaders do get themselves out there perhaps more than they have ever before? I mean, I would never be doing this now. Obviously, you support me with my Recruitment Hacks live show, but do you think we should all be getting ourselves out there more than perhaps we have done in the past?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily everyone needs to. I think you've got to judge it on what your role is in the business, right? But I think
it's important that the business leader that goes out there and builds that credibility.
I think so.
I think looks like a thought leader.
Again, I think it's slightly different depending on the company. If you're a big organization, you've got a huge leadership team and you're literally sat in the back ready to go on a yacht somewhere, don't waste your time, right? Get one of your leaders to do it. But for majority of people that will listen to this, you know, if you're a small to medium-sized recruitment company, you're still the best business developer. You're still the best closer of candidates. Like you've got that gravitas. You've been in the game longer. One thing I guarantee will happen as you grow is you'll have less and less time in client and candidate conversation. It just happens, right? Otherwise, you're going to always be a small business. So when you are no longer on the coalface of speaking to the market, by just say weekly or bi-weekly having an interview with a customer that you already potentially have, you stay relevant, you stay close, you learn, you know, you can also have a good chat afterwards or before with the client and find out about how their experience is, etc. But more than anything else, it can take minutes to get thousands and thousands of views on LinkedIn right now. And that might not last for very long. We don't know how long we can, it's a bit of a golden era. So if you're a business owner with opinions and experiences, then why not share it? It actually doesn't take that long. And again, that's the sort of thing we coach in our academy, that it's like 30 minutes a day work max, and you can reach thousands of people. If you're trying to hire recruiters into your business, which most people are, again, being visible is important. They want to know who they're going to work for. They want to connect with that person.
Yeah. And I think in an age where so many of us now are working from home or we have a blended approach, you can't always get in the office to interview. A lot more's being done on Zoom, as we know. So it's a good way, as you say, of showcasing your business and who you are, what you're about, your values, et cetera, et cetera. My final it's not my final question, but my second to last question is there anything to avoid? And we've talked about the positives of it, but did you ever make any real mistakes launching this podcast, or things that you think, I shouldn't have done that, we should have done this? Was there any top tips that you can give of things to definitely do and things to avoid?
I think I would probably have a good listen out there and see if there's if what you're doing is unique in any way, right? Because I think, like, for example, when I launched the rag, I don't think there was another one. Now there's about 10 that are doing exactly the same thing, right? And there's only so many people are going to listen to. So I would say, if you feel like the exact idea you've got is already out there, then perhaps just tweak it a little bit. You can still talk to the same people, just have a different topic, So I would say right now, people are not as creative perhaps as they could be, and they just copy someone directly. And, it can be I'm not necessarily it's not going to grow your reach that well. I think being too scripted, I think some people are so scared to say the wrong thing. They just sit there and hide behind a script. There's all well and good having an interview. And I think, look, there's kind of two types of podcast hosts. There's me, where I ask questions, but I like to share a lot. And then there's other people that are very, it is just, they sit behind and it's just, they just facilitate. And that's okay. I know two, like Secret Leaders and Diary CEO, top tier, like, Amazon best-selling podcast. Yeah. One of them is exactly like Secret Leaders. They don't really talk. They just ask questions and shut up. Yeah. Whereas Stephen is way more open. Really, and I'm in that camp, but there's people that are good at that. Pick your style and stick to it. Yeah. But I still think if you're going in with a script and a guest starts talking down something pretty important or interesting, it's a bit like recruitment. Like, it's important to acknowledge what they're saying and not be just waiting for the next time to speak. Like genuinely listen and engage. It's two-way conversation. I don't think I think I had a bit of nerves at the beginning, but I don't think I've ever. I think there's been a couple of times where stuff, especially when the pandemic hit, where like the Amazon guy arrives or something, right? And your door goes and you're like, and you think,
or Henry pops up.
Yeah, well, I've locked him out today, so he's in the other room. But, and then you say to yourself, I'll edit that bit out. Or you say, I'm going to get my editor to edit that out, and you forget. Yeah. And I've done that a few times. I've had people message me going, Sean, by the way, halfway through the episode today, like you start talking about all sorts of shit. And I'm like, oh God. So if you're going to make mistakes, or if you spot any mistakes, write them down, make a note and action it straight away. Don't leave it, because you will forget. 30, 40, 50 minutes of video. If you don't remember roughly when that happened, it's hard to find it. It's a lot of work. So that'd be the one major hiccup I've made, is where I've had all the intentions of fixing something and forgot.
That's interesting. I had it's obvious I've only done 3. So I had Greg Savage on the show, and he had to take a really important phone call. And then he referred to the phone call later on in the episode. So not only did I have to edit out, you guys edited out the call, we then had to edit out the reference to the call later. And it was terribly hard. So no, you're right. I think as I think you've said, and many other people, done is better than perfect. At the end of the day, my approach is I'm trying to educate people like myself, really, who are the owners of small businesses who maybe have never thought about personal branding, podcasting, and we're trying to educate people who perhaps would never even think of doing this, but can see, if I can do it, 53, 35 years plus in recruitment, me, I hid behind my brand for years and years and years. It's only doing that course with you guys that I'm sitting here now. I'm just trying to show to people that, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, how old you are, you can go out there and do this and inspire other people to.
What impact has it had on you? What impact has it had on your business?
Oh, it's massive. I mean, on the personal branding piece, I would say at least 50, 60 pieces of new business incoming, just following the advice that we were given on the course, which was, to like and comment. And then we started sharing posts. And, to begin with, I still not done a video. I mean, I know very early on you asked us to do a video, but it's not the same, because I can't correct this. I can't change it. It is what it is. But if I'd done a video, I would do 53 attempts.
I think one of the things about video is it's genuinely it's a very important and valuable tool, but it's not the only tool. Like if you're more comfortable writing but you can consistently do it, you will do well. I always lent to video because I wasn't the best writer and I could speak, and I just felt like, get me on camera and I'll just yap, and it tended to work out all right. But everyone's a bit different. I think the one thing you've done is you've been super consistent since you came on the course. You properly went for it. Like, there's plenty of people that say they'll do something and don't do it, and they can have all the theory and knowledge in the world, but they don't apply it. Well, the one thing I love about recruitment owners, they're typically go-getters. They're typically like, they're action takers. So, if they do join the course or whatever, then they're given a formula to work with. They've got to then, but we've proven it works. There's plenty. I mean, I've got so many people like yourself that have done well. So, I'm really pleased. And thanks for having me back on this show. It's
a real pleasure. I think one of the biggest things I've learned and gained from what you said today is that in fact people have different learning styles, and I think that's why podcasting has become podcasts have become such a popular thing to listen to. You can self-educate yourself, as you've said. And if you're not someone who likes to read tons of books, which I don't even have time for, but I will have certain podcasts I will listen to every week. And I hope, for anyone who's listening today, that they've learned a little bit more about podcasting and about personal branding and what a difference it's made for you, and hopefully what a difference it's going to make to us. So thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Ruella, thank you. And if anyone wants to reach out, just get me on LinkedIn's the best place. I'm on there every single day. And
we'll put a link to you on all of our channels anyway as well.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Thank you. And we'll catch you very soon.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Ruella Talks Recruitment. Please do leave us a review with your thoughts. If you'd like to be advised of future episodes, please hit subscribe. Thank you.